What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Walkout Podcast.
where we talk about fights, news, and more.
And today we're previewing UFC 329 and the return of the notorious Conor McGregor, who headlines International Fight Week versus Max Holloway in the rematch, 13 years after their first matchup. And this one is going to be a spectacle. And like I said, it's the main event of UFC 329 International Fight Week. T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas is the venue. And what a matchup this is. I mean, they've both come on leaps and bounds since their first fight.
Yeah.
However, the elephant in the room is the layoff of Conor McGregor 5 years out. I mean, is there any possibility that he comes back and, claims a win against such a good guy like Max Holloway in terms of the, what do you say, the prospect of a UFC fighter? What do you reckon here?
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is it's it's always hype when it's Conor McGregor fight week. As I said, the notorious Mac, he's back, and he's for sure gonna. I think he's gonna show the fight fans that he's back in the octagon for real this time. At least he's gonna try to do that. He's gonna come in there, I think, with a lot of energy. He's gonna back himself. Of course, he's always gonna back himself. But still, I think the levels here, and just that brutal injury that happened last time out, which was last time out was a long time ago, right? The Dustin
Yeah.
Poirier fight where he broke his leg. It's snapped in half, basically. I think so. Brutal injury, and just since then he's been. I mean, I don't wanna. I love Conor McGregor. That all the hype that was before the Jose Aldo knockouts, all of those. You know, there's so much to like. At least about the old Conor McGregor when he had those moments in him, and he had all the hype, and he basically was the UFC for a while. He was MMA for a while,
Yep.
and now it's just not the same guy anymore. And I don't want to cut, I don't want to paint it or something. I'm just gonna say it as it is, that he's coked up. He's washed now. You can't see it in any other way. He's been doing like hard drugs for a long time, and I remember he was in a movie with Jake Gyllenhaal, a famous Hollywood actor,
Yeah.
where it was gonna be like, and he was doing an interview, and his eyes were just, uh, what's he called? He was just.
I know his face was twitching.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, twitching exactly from like the drugs and stuff. And I don't know. After seeing that, it doesn't matter what kind of camp he has been in here. I could absolutely believe that he's been in a hard training camp. I'm not saying that he's not gonna train hard for this, but after what he's put his body through, after what he's put himself through, and what he was, even before that, when he was fighting after Habib fight, the twice, the back-to-back Poirier fights, that guy, even from those fights, that guy isn't beating Max Holloway, Max Holloway, and the version right now of Conor McGregor will be worse than that guy. I'm basing it off that, and you know, so I'm just thinking that he's gonna get schooled by Max Holloway here, and sure, Max Holloway is coming off a loss versus Charles Oliveira, but that's a completely different level of fighter here, and a completely different type of fighter also than Conor McGregor. And although McGregor has a reach advantage, and you could maybe say he probably has a power advantage in like the first round or so,
Yep.
until he gasses out, I still think that Holloway he's smart enough. He knows that he's got this fight in the bag, as soon as it goes like more than a round or so. So for me, this is gonna be a Max Holloway win here. And yeah, I'll let you take your input on this fight as well before we go about the method of the win. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to repeat what you said because I agree with so much of it. But one key point that I think you mentioned that I haven't seen a lot of people bring up before this fight is just the fact of what you just said. I mean, for me, does a prime Conor McGregor beat Max Holloway? This current Max Holloway? I'm not too sure. Like you said, does the Conor McGregor from 5 years ago beat this current Max Holloway? I wouldn't say so. Does a Conor McGregor, who's been, like you said, we don't sugarcoat things. He's been partying, drinking, doing drugs, not training, is bulking on, unreasonable amounts of muscle. Muscle is good, but in the amount that Conor has been putting on, that's the reason why fighters don't put on that much muscle. It's not because they can't do it, it's because it's not useful in an MMA fight in 5 rounds. What it tends to do, it's that it's just gasses you out. So I completely agree with you. I don't think that the Conor who we last saw beats this current Max. And I mean, the level of competition that Max Holloway has had, I'm just going to repeat it now. From the point of Conor's last fight in 2021, Max Holloway has fought Yair Rodriguez, top-ranked featherweight contender, Alexander Volkanovski, the GOAT of featherweight, Arnold Allen, a real good prospect, Korean Zombie, a legend at featherweight, Ilia Topuria, do I need to say anything else? And beat Dustin Poirier. And like you said, lost to Charles Oliveira, but Charles Oliveira is also one of the most dynamic fighters in the UFC, and he didn't get submitted. He showed some really good defense in durability in that fight.
Yeah.
So for me, the odds here is what I want to go get into, because like you said, we're gonna do our picks, and of course I agree with you that I think Max takes this fight. I think it's ridiculous to predict Conor, even though we've seen Sean Strickland and Justin Gaethje pull off major upsets. But what's in common of both of those guys? They are committed. They've been grinding away in the gym for the last 10 to 15 years, just getting better, getting experience. What's Conor been doing the last 5 years? Just partying, not training a minute. So I mean, I don't think that comparison is fair at all. And the odds, I mean, Max is a favorite going into this one, but he's not that big of a favorite. He's like, Conor is like half the underdog that both Gaethje and Sean Strickland were going into their title fights.
It's crazy.
Which I find mental. But like you said, the important thing here is to get on to prediction. And for me, Conor's stamina, man. I mean, they've been doing some footage of him, jogging around around Ireland, trying to make it seem like he has got cardio. But we all know, even in his prime, Conor didn't have cardio. Cardio was the reason why he lost to Nate Diaz. And if we're going to be honest, Nate Diaz is a very average fighter in his prime. So Conor at like 37 years old, his cardio is going to be really bad, I think. And Holloway's cardio, we know, is legendary. And now he's at 170 for the first time ever. What is that going to, entail? It's the fact that he won't basically need to cut any weight. And if you know anything about MMA and weight cutting, it's that it drains your capacity to sustain cardiovascular levels, should I say. So Holloway's cardio should be like the best we've ever seen it, probably. And Conor's is going to be pretty poor, if I'm going to be honest. I don't want to, say these things without knowing him, but for all the data I've seen, there's no signs to back up the fact that Conor should have the stamina in anywhere near of Max Holloway. So just that for me is enough of a reason to pick Max Holloway by stoppage. And I'm going to say a round 3 TKO, I think. What do you reckon? What do you think about those points?
Yeah, I completely agree. And, especially what you said about the cardio and the weight cut. And we're talking about Conor McGregor here. I know you pointed out earlier when you started talking about his, he has put on a lot of weight. And so for me, he probably has to cut a fair amount of weight, right? Even though he used to be a featherweight.
Yeah.
I think he's walking around now at a pretty, as a pretty, large weight. And
yeah, it's big. It's big. Yeah.
yeah, he's big now, and it's muscle. It's not just fat, and muscle. Cutting muscle is a bit of a different thing, and then just cutting, water weight or whatever you want to call it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's gonna be. I think that Connor's gonna he's gonna have to have a real weight cut, not a massive one, but still, it's gonna be a real weight cut. Why? But for Holloway, it's gonna be like he's taking off. Yeah, he's gonna be taking off an ankle weight or something, of him, and it's gonna be that little, level, as you said, a bit better cardio, maybe even a bit, hitting a bit harder, possibly.
Yeah.
He's gonna be a bit more unleashed maybe in this fight. I don't know. So I'm going with you on the finish there. I'm thinking the same thing. I'm thinking that Max Holloway, he has enough. Sure, Conor does have more power, I would say. Just if you were to put these two guys up against the punchometer machine or whatever
Yeah.
that boxers do, I'd probably say that Conor has more power. But throughout the rounds, I think after the first round, Holloway is gonna hit a lot harder. Eventually, his strikes are gonna be hitting cleaner also. That is really important, especially as these guys are moving around. So for me, I'm gonna go with you there. I'm gonna say something like I think I'm gonna say second round TKO. It's a bit early, but I'm just thinking that Conor, he's gonna survive a round, and then as soon as the second round starts and he just gets a bit fatigued, Holloway is just gonna push on, and I think he's just gonna want to end it, and he's gonna show that this is the level difference that we're talking about here, and all those years of Conor not training properly, not putting in that consistency, I think that's gonna be very much on show here. So
Yeah.
for me, I'm going with the Holloway second round TKO. That's
Yeah.
my pick.
That's fair. And just to add on to what you said about the power, because I've seen that a lot, and I've seen people say Conor is more used to 170 and the power there, and he has a lot more power than Max. And I completely agree. I think that's true. However, power doesn't mean anything in a striking matchup if you can't connect, if you can't get to your opponent. And I just
Yeah.
don't see Conor getting to Max here. And I mean, a perfect example of this, in my opinion, might be a bit harsh, but I think it's accurate, is Derek Lewis, who one of the most powerful hitters in the entire UFC's history. He's lost the fights. He has a lot more power than both Uvaldo Cortez Acosta and Josh Hokit, but he didn't lay a glove on them because they kept moving around him. So his power didn't mean anything in terms of the fight. And I expect this to be very, very similar here. So I completely agree with you. The power is Connor's, I would say, his only advantage. Like we know, has very good timing. But does Max Holloway enter range
That
stupidly? He
timing, though.
doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, and also just on that timing, I do still think that he probably still has that timing, but does he have this hand speed anymore?
No,
That's also
not
a
at all.
question,
Not
with
at
all
all.
of that weight put on. Yeah, so
Yeah. And at
it's
that
neither
age
one.
as well, I mean, he's not in his prime. He's far, far from his prime. So, yeah, we're unanimous there across the board. It's going to be a tough night for Connor. But I mean, according to the bookies, this fight is pretty close. So maybe we'll see something spectacular from Conor McGregor. You can never count him out. But I mean, he's got the odds against him here. But like we always say, there's something special about a Conor McGregor fight week and a Conor McGregor fight. So either way, it's going to be incredibly exciting to see him there Saturday night, just making his walk to the octagon. I reckon I'm going to get goosebumps. It's going to be
Yeah,
special. So
just hearing the walkout music, and
yeah,
reminiscing about good old times.
exactly. The biggest, like we said, the biggest star ever in the UFC is always going to be
Yeah,
special. All right, should we move on then to the co-main event? Um,
yeah.
where we
Let's
have
move on.
a very highly anticipated matchup in the lightweight division. This one has been talked about a long time, and it's the number 5 ranked Benoit Santini taking on the number 6 ranked Paddy Pimblett. Benoit Santini, of course, claiming some very, very impressive wins against Dan Hooker, Dariush, Mauricio Ruffi. He's on a very good win streak. But Paddy Pimblett, even though he lost last time out against Justin Gaethje, he gained a lot of respect for his toughness and his striking ability in that fight. So, and on odds, should I say, this is a very even matchup. Do you favor anyone here? Do you think it's a hard fight to pick, or do you have anything?
I absolutely think it's a hard fight to pick, and it's a really good fight. I believe it's gonna be because both of these guys, they do have wrestling, right? Both of these guys, they
Yeah,
are quite good
good
grapplers.
grapplers. Yeah,
Yeah, good grapplers, good jiu-jitsu, good wrestling, pretty well rounded there. And so I think they cancel each other out maybe on the ground, and that probably leaves them standing because, to be honest, Paddy Pimblett, sure, he lost versus Justin Gaethje, but look where Gaethje is now. Look how that win has aged, or that loss, sorry, has aged. So for
yeah,
me, Pimblett, he's definitely gonna be thinking that he still has something, to show in the striking, and also, as I said, canceling each other out in the grappling. Neither of these two are gonna go against the other and say that I'm gonna beat you or I'm gonna beat you up in the grappling space. I think maybe Sandhagen, he he has gotten, is it 3 TKOs in a row now, I believe?
Yeah,
Or no,
the
maybe
Hoofy
no,
one
he's
was a
defeated
submission, yeah, but the other ones were
submission,
TKO, yeah.
but then the TKO. So he has found, that power now, sort of in that hook of that he has, I think the right hook or something,
Yeah.
that he put out at least, Darius with in just one punch, super easy,
Hmm.
or super early, I was gonna say. So for me, both these guys, they do have something to show on the feet, and I think that's where it's gonna play out. So, and it's really difficult because Paddy Pimblett went to war versus Justin Gaethje, who's now holding the belt in the lightweight division, and Sandhagen has knocked out 2 opponents that are, I mean, Hooker, Darius doesn't have much to show really in terms of striking, but Hooker is a decent striker, right? And he has good
Yeah.
reach. So knocking him out in the second round, I think or getting a TKO on him in the second round, I think that's a really good, that's a good performance. So I don't know, it's super hard to pick this for me, but I think that Sandhagen maybe has just enough here, in terms of power advantage, just in that connection also, in the if they're gonna be striking in close exchanges, just brawling. I think that's where it's gonna end up, possibly because that's what Pimblett usually does when he strikes.
Yeah.
He does want to have a scrap, and for me, Sandhagen, he's just managed to, whenever Sandhagen has found himself in that space in the last couple of fights, then he's just shown a different level of, I don't know, hand speed, or if it's grit or determination, I don't know, but he just seems to be the superior fighter in that, tight space. So for me, I don't know, I'm going with almost, I think, a Sandhagen TKO here. Uh, in the third round, I think, something like that. I'm not exactly sure when, but
Damn,
no, it could be
TKO.
more. It could be like third or fourth round TKOs underneath here because
Don't you know what Paddy says? Scousers don't get knocked out.
yeah, I know the whole Scousers don't get knocked out, but I'm just seeing it. I'm just kind of seeing it that Paddy, he's gonna have maybe some sort of success with leg kicks and stuff, and keeping it maybe on the keeping the range,
Yeah.
but then Sandhagen he's gonna close in, and I don't think that Pimblett, sorry, is gonna deny that. I think that he's gonna want that too. He's gonna want the scrap,
Yeah.
and
Like we saw in
for
the
me,
Gaethje fight. He lost the
yeah,
scrap, yeah.
exactly. And for me, I don't know. It's just Sandhagen has just found that power, and I think when a fighter just does that and gets 2 knockouts in a row, I think that's gonna carry him for some time. And for me, it's just a good, I don't know, it's just a good matchup for Sandhagen here. Do you agree with me, or do you think that it's maybe a bit more complicated
I
than
mean,
that
I can
for
see
Paddy?
that, of course, because it is a very close fight, competitive fight, should I say. And like we said, on the odds, Benoit Santini is a slight betting favorite. And to be honest, since he joined the MMA Performance Center with, I think it's Nicolas Ott, the head coach, who's very, very good. And fighters
Yeah,
like Imavov is training out of that gym. So it's a very good gym he's switched to. And we've seen that in his recent fights. He's looked very good. But for me, the holes are still there. I mean, I will never forget the fight, and it was granted it was 2 years ago. But when Santini lost to Renato Moicano, I mean, for me, all respect to Renato Moicano, but for me, he's not a great fighter. In fact, I don't think he's an elite fighter in UFC terms at all. I don't even think he should be ranked. So to lose to him, I mean, he's gotten a lot of wins since that point, but I saw a lot of holes in his game that, to be honest, I haven't really seen fixed. I rewatched the Dan Hooker fight today, actually. And Dan Hooker, like you said, he's a very good striker, but in the last few fights, he hasn't looked like the Dan Hooker of old. So
yeah,
for me,
that's
that
true.
win doesn't matter too much. I mean, to get a finish ground and pound against a tough guy like Dan Hooker, it's impressive, but it's not amazing. And for me, Paddy Pimblett's performance against Justin Gaethje, just like you said, it meant so much more when we saw what Justin Gaethje did to Ilia Topuria. Because before that, I put some shame on Paddy Pimblett because I said Justin Gaethje is basically finished, and you took that kind of a beating from him. But Justin Gaethje, and this hurts me to say because I like Topuria, but he schooled Topuria over 4 rounds and made him quit. And Pimblett put up a way better fight and a way more competitive fight than Topuria did. And I know MMA math isn't really a thing. It doesn't work like that. Styles makes fights. But I think everywhere, in my opinion, Pimblett is better. And I know that might be a crazy take, but I think striking-wise, he's underrated. Grappling-wise, you don't want to be on the ground with Pimblett. And to be honest, I just think that Santini is a bit too slow for Pimblett. I think the Hoofy win for Santini is very impressive. And I don't want to say the words fluke because that takes away some of the credit. But Hoofy has come on leaps and bounds as well since that loss against Santini. So it's a hard fight to pick, of course it is. But I'm gonna go with Paddy Pimblett here. I reckon that he gets it down with. I think it finishes this one. It's just a question of ground and pound or submission. I reckon it's gonna get the submission in. Let's say the third round here against Anthony. I reckon he gets it done. I think there's a bit of a class difference that people are looking over, but I might be wrong. Like I said, the bookies have it the other way around, so I'm open to the fact that it's a highly competitive match and certainly one we're looking forward to. Those are the best ones, and the guy who wins this one is going to be well in line for maybe a title shot or at least a number one contender bout after this.
Yeah, it's a really interesting fight, and it really can go either way, right? I mean, it's sort of a question of who just catches who. Do you think that if Paddy submits Benoit here, do you think it's more like he wobbles him and then submits him, or do you think that he straight up, wrestles him and then manages to get the upper hand in the grappling here?
I mean, the strength of Benoit is very significant, so I think Paddy could do that. But I totally agree with the first thing you said. I think Paddy is gonna go for the set up some combinations on the striking, maybe a few like low kicks, then some jabs, and then a hook, a bit like he did Monkey Chandler. And in that fight, granted, he got the TKO, ground and pound. But I think in this fight, he respects Santini a lot more than he did Monkey Chandler. So I reckon, like you said there, he's gonna go for what was I going to say? Yeah, the striking basically to set up the submission. Because just to go with the grappling, he's a very skilled grappler, Paddy. But I reckon that's the way because his striking, I believe personally, is better than Santini's, and I think that Paddy reckons that as well. So I think he's going to strike to get him to the ground, and then just get to his back and submit him basically.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that too. Actually, I do believe that Paddy does have a level above in terms of technique in the striking. It's just that I'm just thinking that maybe that they get in the pocket, they sort of scrap for a bit, and then they just get in the pocket, and then just Sandini, he just finds that perfect hook, that perfect punch that he has found just a few times before now, and knocks Paddy. But it's not. Of course, we have to respect Paddy Pimblett. Also, Scousers don't get knocked out.
Yeah, his shin is very good.
He showed that versus Gaethje. He was more durable than Topuria versus Gaethje. We have to give him that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a close fight. Like you said, I could completely see Santini catching him. And Pimblett, it's a bit of a meme, but it's also true that, he goes in with his shin incredibly high. He likes almost like he's mocking. He goes in with his shin tucked all the way up. And if he does that and walks into a left hook from Santini, it's good night, I believe, even though Paddy has barely had a knockdown in his career. But for sure, I would be surprised if this is not entertaining fight, at least, and that's all we want. So may the best one win, and it's a close one, and that's what we like, right?
Absolutely.
All right, should we move on to another fight that is pretty close on the odds? And I like this after the White House card that was very much the way of just a big favorite versus big underdog. This card is very even on the odds, and now we have Corey Sandhagen taking on Mario Bautista, two of the best bantamweights in the UFC, has to be said. What do you reckon for this one? Because for me, this is maybe the hardest fight on the card to pick, I reckon. What do you think?
Yeah, this is another really good fight here, and a very even fight. As you said, it's a super hard fight to pick, because they're very, I don't know, for Sandini and Paddy Pimblett, that one is a bit easier. There is a bit of a level difference that I agree with. Maybe I'm just thinking that Sandini has the better momentum here, but in terms of these two guys, I believe that these two are basically evenly skilled. Corey Sandhagen and Mario Bautista at this moment, it's super even, and they are also really well rounded, right? There's not really any terms of any big holes in their games. I would sort of say that Corey Sandhagen has the superior fight IQ. Maybe Bautista has the better uh, striking at this point. I'm
Maybe,
not
yeah.
completely sure. Yeah, but and he has a slight just reach advantage. But still, I believe that I really do rate Corey Sandhagen, and I think that it's a bit sad that he hasn't fought since that Merab fight, which was at this point more than I think 6 months ago, something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that in that fight, I thought that Corey he showed a good level. He did lose, but that was I still think it was a good fight that Corey fought. He basically managed the fight well. I did think that he won a round versus Merab, and he managed to stay in the fight, you know, for the entire 5 rounds. So, and before that, he knocked out Davison Figueiredo, or TKO'd him in the fight before. So,
Yeah.
for me, I don't know. It's difficult because Mario Bautista, he showed a decent level as well versus another really top level bantamweight here in Umar Nurmagomedov
Yeah.
in his latest fight. Even though he did lose, I still think that it was pretty competitive. Maybe it was just Umar not being that good enough in that fight, but before that he put away Patchy Mix, a pretty big, at least it was a pretty hyped prospect beforehand.
Hmm.
And before that he won against Aldo, who, although it was a pretty washed up version even at that point. So I don't know, it's a super difficult fight to pick, but I think I'm gonna go with Corey Sandhagen. I don't know really exactly why. It's not that I think that that's a major style advantage or anything. I don't think that he's much better in that in terms of technical area here. In terms of the grappling or the striking, I just think that Corey is not really an entire level above, but he is, as close. I think that going from fighting Merab to fighting Mario Bautista, I think it's such a, it's prime Merab versus Mario Bautista. It's such a big step down in terms of the fight opponent. And Corey is a very serious fighter, sort of. At least I view him as that. He's intelligent and he's gonna take Mario Bautista very seriously. So for me, he's just gonna get the better of him here. I don't think he's gonna get a finish. I think that he's gonna manage to fight better, and he's just gonna get a unanimous decision, maybe clinching something like exactly like 3 rounds, just getting enough to get it over the line, not taking any big risks, just a classic Corey Sandhagen controlled performance here. That's what I'm gonna pick. So, what is your thought on this fight?
Yeah, I mean, I agree pretty much with that. For me, like I said, it's a very tough fight to pick. And I don't want to disrespect Batista because he's a very clever fighter. He's very technical when he gets in there. He's a very good mixed martial artist as well. It's just not like a, no offense, but Sandhagen is more of a striker who does MMA. But Batista mixes it really well. And he's just like, a bit of a gatekeeper. Like when he fights the top of the top, like the Umars, like the top threes in the division, he loses. But otherwise, he wins. And that's a bit like what Corey Sandhagen has become as well in the bantamweight division. And that's what makes this very difficult to pick. But what I would bet my house on is a decision. I can't see a finish
Yeah,
here, really. But yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you. I think that Corey picks him apart with his technical striking, with the range. His shot selection is very, very good, Corey Sandhagen's, and I won't be surprised if it goes either way. But for a prediction, I would have to agree with you. I think that the experience, and although they are pretty much the same age, I think just the level that Corey has mixed with is a bit higher caliber. Even like you said, just the fact that it's been in there going 5 rounds with Merab says a lot. And then Umar, Figueiredo, Font, Vera, Yedong, Jan, Dillashaw. I
yeah,
mean, the list goes on and on. His last 10 fights have all been against like legendary bantamweights almost. So I think that sets him on a certain standard. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Sandhagen. Split decision. I'm gonna say just picking Batista apart. But it's going to be an interesting one as well, this one. I mean, it's a close fight, so I guess we'll see on Saturday night.
It's a close fight, but something is probably certain, as you said. It's gonna be a decision if either of these guys win,
Yeah, I think
or
so. Yeah, yeah.
whoever wins. Yeah. So moving on, we have a flyweight bout between Brandon Royval and Loner Kavanagh. So who do you see taking this fight? How do you see it playing out?
I mean, again, I'm starting to sound like a casual here, but I think this one is really hard to say as well. What I've been a bit confused about is the fact that everyone who I've seen who I respect, former MMA fighters and like commentators and stuff, they're picking Kavanagh because he's the young up and coming prospect. He's the favorite in this one, not a huge favorite, but he's a favorite, and he's a lot of momentum in the UFC right now. However, I don't want to be sleeping on Brandon Royval. He's like almost like a flyweight legend. He's been mixing it with all the top guys for a while, and I mean, um, 2 fights ago he fought Joshua Van in what was Fight of the Year, and Van is now the champ and has defended the belt. And he went toe to toe with him in what was one of the best UFC fights I've ever seen. And like they say, it takes two to tango. That wasn't just a night for Van; it was also a night for Royval, who put on an incredible performance. And last time out, he lost against Manuel Kapp. Tough one, but Manuel Kapp is one of the best guys in the division as well. To lose in the first round on ground and pound, it's tough. I mean, maybe that's what people are going by. It's hard to come back against, or from, should I say, that kind of a loss. But I mean, looking before that, Tatsuro Taira is a very good fighter. Win. Brandon Moreno, should I say, good fighter. Win. Although both of them were split decision before, he went the distance with Pantoja. For me, that's well done. Pantoja is one of the best fighters in flyweight history, and you didn't even lose on a knockout or a submission. So I don't want to be underestimating Royval here, is what I'm trying to get to. But
Yeah.
I think I'm buying into the hype a bit of Kavanagh and just the momentum. And I might be regretting that, but I think the fight against Marina, it was a competitive fight, but he looked like the better fighter. And the way he won as well, I was expecting him to go out and get an explosive finish, but he like managed the fight in a very good manner in terms of fight IQ. And that was something that I got very impressed by, to be honest, for a guy who's in the early stages of his MMA career. For me, this is a pick 'em, but I'm gonna go with Loner Kavanagh here. I'm gonna go with points, unanimous decision, but I think it's difficult. What do you think?
Yeah, it is really difficult, and it is, prospect versus the old guard, and you always want to sort of protect the old guard when this comes up because you want to be like, as you said, early on in your coverage there when you talked about the fight versus, versus
Joshua Van?
Joshua
Yeah.
Van,
Yeah.
yeah, for Benoit Royval, and it was such an incredible fight, and just Royval, he just puts up such an incredible volume in every fight. He doesn't have a lot of power, but he does have volume, and he does for sure, put on a scrap, even if it's not, it doesn't always end in a knockout or a finish.
Yeah.
It for sure is, a real scrap. And Kavanagh, from what I've seen, he is pretty impressive. You talked about the win versus Brandon Moreno, how we managed that win, and that does, sort of, I don't know. I think that's that's a very good win to have in that manner coming into this fight because Brendan Royval, he's another, intelligent fighter who also manages fights over the entire, as we saw versus Joshua Van in that fight, there were so many, strikes exchanged, but he kept it, he tried to manage the fight throughout the entire 5 rounds, even to the end. He was a bit unlucky when he got, when he got knocked down basically by Joshua Van, but
Yeah.
still, Royval, he does show, I think, a decent level of, fight IQ as well, and he is pretty tricky. And yeah, coming off the ground and pound loss to Manuel Kapp, I don't know, that is pretty rough. So I don't either want to be riding the hype here, but for me, I'm probably going with Loner Kavanagh as well here, and I'm not saying that he's gonna get a finish though. I think that he's gonna be sort of doing the same thing as he did versus Brandon Moreno, just managing the fight and ending up as the winner through a decision. So I'm gonna go with a unanimous decision to Leonard Kavanagh here.
Yeah, I think that's the most likely outcome. But like we said, it's a hard one. But yeah, should be an exciting one at least because both of these guys are very explosive and very entertaining in
Yeah,
all of their fights. So looking forward to this one as well. Like like we said, it's a maybe not the most stacked card, but it's certainly very
there's a good
entertain.
fight. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's potential for entertainment, right? For this one. So
absolutely.
and then the last fight of the main card, it's Bobby Green, not King Green, taking on Terrence McKinney in the last fight, or should we say the first fight, the opener of the main card. What do you reckon? Who takes this one?
I don't know. I think that, or I mean, I do have a prediction here. I do sort of know what I think, but it's also not a super clear fight. It's pretty even, but I do think that Terrence McKinney just has a bit, a bit of a, I wouldn't say a level above or something because he's still, a prospect and he has had, when he lost versus Chris Duncan, that was pretty surprising. But it is still early in his career, and it showed if you look at his, his record before that, he has a lot of, he has a bunch of pretty much decent wins here before that, and mixing it up with both knockouts and a submission win versus Borshev before he lost versus Duncan.
Yep.
So for me, sure, Bobby Green, he has a little bit of a run right now, a free fight win streak since that loss versus Mauricio Hufi when he got the spinning wheel or back kick, treatment
Yeah.
from him. So for me, it's I don't know. I still sort of see, even though he has won 3 fights in a row, I still see King Green here as the I don't know, as just washed,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it's been for many years now, and the fighters that he's fought, it's okay, but it's not amazing or anything. And for sure, you could say the same thing about McKinney, but I do think that he has the potential to be more than that and to actually come out here and maybe get a ranking, potential ranking in the division. He's not an amazing prospect or anything, but I do think that he has a bit more going for him. And eventually, the age has to catch up with, King Green here, who is 39 years old now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. For me, he's going out, and I'm gonna say that it's gonna be a Terrence McKinney TKO in the second round. That's what I'm going with. What's your prediction for this one?
Yep. You just copied my prediction there. That's exactly what I was gonna go with.
Yeah.
Second round TKO for McKinney. I reckon that's a lock. I mean, yeah. Yeah. I'm just looking through Green's win streak that you were talking about, and we should always credit these kind of things. Free fight win streak at that age, it's impressive. However, let's be real here. Jeremy Stevens is incredibly washed. Daniel Selhuber and Lance Gibson. I mean, do you really want to tell me that those are some kind of good wins? I mean, before that, when he faced real opposition like Hoofy, like Pimblett, like Turner,
Yeah.
he's lost. And then when he has faced people who are very old or washed up, he's won. But now he fights a hungry guy with a lot of potential. For me, the only way that McKinney doesn't win this one is if he throws it away, because he has the potential to do that sometimes. He takes a bit like Kevin Holland. He takes some dumb risks and some dumb decisions, and as long as he doesn't do that here, I reckon that he's got this one in the bag. I think he mixes it up a bit better than Green, and most importantly, I think he's a lot quicker and speed kills. And I think that in this kind of matchup, I reckon that it's going to be quite easy work for McKinney. And a key point that you brought up, it's a simple one, but Father Time is undefeated. I mean, a lightweight at 39 years of age, you can't be going for that long, Bobby Green. So
Yeah.
I think this is wraps for him. I think it's going to be pretty brutal. But I mean, we'll see on Saturday. But I'm pretty confident that McKinney is going to win this fight, actually. And like I said, I think your prediction of a round 2 TKO there is pretty spot on. It could be first round even. but a pretty quick and easy stoppage from McKinney, I think we're going to see on Saturday.
Yeah, the odds aren't really, it's sort of like the main event here. The odds aren't really that correct or sort of what you'd expect, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty even fight on the odds, which surprises me. I mean, maybe to give some credit to the experience of Bobby Green and the competition he's faced. I don't know if they draw anything from that. Maybe. But for me personally,
Yeah,
I don't see it.
I'm thinking sort of maybe the momentum as well, at least
The win streak, yeah.
sort of. Yeah, I think that the bookies, they often look maybe at, the momentum. McKinney is coming off a loss. Green, he's coming off 3-fight win streak, and it doesn't really matter against who. It's sort of like, Benoit versus Paddy. I mean, I do think Paddy is a level above. It's just, Benoit, he has that momentum, that win streak. So, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's a different thing with King Green here, or Green here when he's 39 years old. If he was 31 years old and on a 3-fight win streak, you'd be sort of buying into the hype. But now it's like, okay, but who is he building this win streak, for? What is he building against?
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. So I think if you want to get some quite easy money, I think that's a good point from you because the bookies and some people are putting too much credit to a win streak. I mean, a win streak is only worth something if it's of a certain level, and I don't believe, like just like you said, that this is that. So I think a lot of people are seeing past that and the fact that he's been getting some easy matchups, and then thinking, yeah, the win streak will continue, but like we said, the age as well. I mean, sure, some people have like defeated the concept of aging, but
Yeah.
will Bobby Green? I'm not too sure. 39 is a well old, even for like a heavyweight, and to be like a lightweight. I mean, that's insane. So I reckon he's gonna struggle here. To be fair to him, he's been very active, but I reckon that this is where it ends. To be honest.
Yeah, I mean, even the point about being active, it's good for the UFC. It's good for his, if you want to talk about, maybe his UFC profile, his status. Even if he loses here, they're gonna call him back a month later and say, hey, you want to be on this card? You want to fill out this card as well? But the activity isn't the best thing when you're 39 years old and going up against guys who's banging against your head, like
Yeah.
McKinney does, or will probably do.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Spot on. All right. That's pretty much it. So those are our final predictions for UFC 329 International Fight Week. Don't miss it this Saturday. Like we always cover the main card. There are some pretty big names on the prelims here as well, so don't miss those. Robert Whittaker, Gable Stevenson, of course, making his debut. Cody Garbrandt, Luke Riley, some big prelims as well. So keep an eye out for those. But the main card here, like we said, it's a very even all through. So I'm definitely going to be locked and loaded for this week's UFC card. It's a big one, right?
Yeah, it's a massive one. It's International Fight Week, right? And it's the Mac is back.
Yeah, the return of the biggest star in the UFC. I can't wait. But thank you guys a lot for listening and watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll catch you next time.
Catch you guys next time.